Hello, welcome back to my page. My name is Jess. I'm the owner and operator of Skeleton Crew Creations. I handmade candles, I talk about true crime, and I kind of vent about my business. So I'm kind of freestyling today. I usually film my videos beforehand and then I do a voiceover. But I thought I'd try to freestyle, mode just to keep it natural. And it's kind of like a therapy session for me today because, as many of you know, if you follow me on Instagram and if you saw my YouTube short, I just got suspended from Etsy. My Etsy shop, Skeleton Crew Gifts, no longer exists. I had been on that platform for about a year and a half, and I was doing really well the past month. My business is handmade as well as print on demand because a lot of my designs I have to do print on demand. I don't have the space in my messy garage, as you can see, to print t-shirts on my own, and I'm only one person. There's only so many skills that I could learn. So my business is true crime based. My last video I posted a couple months ago was about Ed Gein. I'm a bit of a true crime addict. I watch a lot of true crime on my off time. I read a lot of books about psychology and dark psychology, as well as serial killers and basically notable cases in psychopathy. So before I got suspended on Etsy, I was designing shirts that had kind of like a dark humor behind the serial killers, but they were kind of done in a tasteful manner. I don't exhibit any gore on my shirts. I kind of keep it as dark humor, yet not disrespectful, because a lot of people's families have suffered due to these crimes. They might have passed by now, I don't know. I used to work with victims of homicide, families of homicide victims, and it is kind of fucked up. But it's kind of the basis of my business and why I started it. So long story short, I was doing really well on Etsy. My Ed Gein shirt took off. I'm actually going to have the link in the description below, and there should be a screenshot of my shirt. Doing really well. So it came with the perfect timing of The Monster Story with Ed Gein, Season 3. I am a huge Ryan Murphy fan, and it literally just took off on Etsy. I was doing really well. I was like, oh my god, this is really good for my business. It got me a lot of exposure. My handmade items were selling. I was like, holy crap, how am I going to keep up? I did it well. Then Etsy's AI, which is the Etsy police, basically started scanning some of my other products, which started to gain a little exposure, and started banning them. One of them was a Vote Gacy shirt, and I didn't think it was that terrible. And they banned a quote on a mug that I had from Charles Manson. So I appealed it because it said it promoted violence. It has nothing that says violence on it. They simply banned it because of the names that were presented and the AI scanned it. Any fellow Etsy sellers know that you cannot get any type of customer service or any human voice to speak to regarding running your Etsy shop. It is completely run by AI, and you cannot get a single person. So I tried to appeal it. They didn't give me the option to appeal, so I started harassing them with emails. Same deal. I got the whole generic email response, replied, never got an answer back. So what happens is I wake up Halloween morning and find out my shop is suspended. I appealed it. Immediate suspension. I am permanently suspended from Etsy. So right now I have to restructure my whole business, my whole life, my whole mental output to redesign everything to go straight to my online website. And it is a lot of work because, like I said, I am self-taught. I designed my website by myself. I designed it a certain way just to make it easier for me. The only hard part is getting traffic. So this is why you're going to be seeing me more on YouTube. So that's where I'm at right now with my Etsy business. And yeah, I would really appreciate any of your support. Just like, subscribe to my channel. That is enough about my Etsy rant, so to speak. Now we're going to talk about Ed Gein. So if you saw my last video about Ed Gein, I kind of break down his psychosis and how his mental state and his upbringing kind of got him to that point where he became a killer. Like I said before, I'm a huge fan of Ryan Murphy's show. It was great up until he started embellishing everything. He embellished his relationship with Aileen, the necrophilia that was going on. Basically, he took a huge right turn and made it his own show. And I get it, it is a docuseries, it's supposed to be dramatic or whatever, but at least with the Dahmer season, he kept everything on point with all the findings of the case. The only hard part about the Ed Gein series is that it was back in the 50s. This wasn't a really known, crime. I mean, it was infamous in its nature, but you have to understand, police investigations and homicide investigations were in their infancy. So there isn't much information offered on how the investigation went. Everything's pretty much lost in translation. So I get where he had to kind of embellish certain details for dramatic purposes because there wasn't much information. It's just what disgusted me the most was how Bernice Worden was portrayed. That is actually not fucking cool. Bernice Worden was terrified of Ed Gein. She thought he was a creep. In the show, if you haven't watched the show, I'm about to spoil it for you. They insinuate a sexual relationship in between Gein and Worden, and that was entirely not the case. Honestly, if I were a distant relative of the Wardens, I'd be pissed off and I'd probably be suing Ryan Murphy right about now. There are a lot of inconsistencies with the show regarding the crime. The only thing I do have to give credit to Ryan Murphy for is the crime scene and how he got every single point of how the body was found, how it was found in the barn, how it was Warden's son that found him. That was really on point. I have to give his makeup crew and his special effects crew a ton of credit for it because they got everything to a T on the bodies, as well as how decomposition is portrayed in dead bodies. Not many movies can really nail it. They nailed it. So kudos to that makeup and special effects team that Ryan Murphy has. I'm just disappointed with how the storyline came about. I wish it was a little more on track with whatever information they got. I do like how it ended and how he discovered he was schizophrenic, or skedaddles as the kids are saying, and how he felt at the end telling the doctor, I don't know what I am. And that is a very true resonation of people with mental illness and schizophrenia and everything. They don't really realize it. So he did a great job with that. But I have to give it a 7 out of 10. I'm usually a 9.5 out of 10 when it comes to Ryan Murphy productions, especially Dahmer and the Menendez brothers season with the Monster series going on. But no, he kind of spoiled Ed Gein for me. I am glad he did it. I just wish he went about it a different way. Alright, so moving on to more serial killer stuff. I just went over the Ed Gein show and my spiel about my business. As you can see, it's the next day and I get busy. I have a job after, aside from running my own business. So just a little review of the recent documentaries. One is on Aileen Wuornos, which is the queen of serial killers on Netflix. And I do want to discuss about the case of Aileen Wuornos in one of my videos, but I'm just going to briefly go over how the directors went over that. Honestly, it was a good documentary. It was decent, I have to admit, compared to some other documentaries that I've seen over the years. What I don't understand with this world right now is how they victimize a killer. I do sympathize over Aileen. She did have years of abuse in her household and everything. She went into prostitution, and I don't deny the fact that she was raped. I mean, unfortunately, that's one of the occupational hazards of that type of work that, sex workers put themselves through, okay? And I don't deny that she does have some sort of trauma, because if you really look at some of the videos, and I'm going to try and include a clip right here, you can see in her head she's reliving that trauma. And this is one thing I have seen dealing with victims of trauma, whether it was on that occurrence or past, that she's reliving that moment. And it is possible that with some of her victims, that PTSD, which is like, it's PTSD is kind of like that, overstuffing a cabinet full of files and it's disorganized, right? And that trigger point is like, boom, that file comes out and she starts reliving that moment, unfortunately. I don't deny her trauma. And I believe with some of her victims that might have happened, except the one that was like the triggering snowball effect, where she was sexually assaulted and she killed him first, right? But she was doing this type of work for years on end. It wasn't until that moment where she shot that guy, that first guy who sexually assaulted her brutally, was savage, that she started to kill. Okay? She does know right from wrong. At the end of the day, she is a psychopath. She knew what she did was wrong, and she does admit to it. She did admit to these crimes, okay? The question is, if she's a victim, then how come all the numerous men she was with before that one incident that made her into a killer, that transformed that on switch to being an obedient human being, somewhat, to becoming a murderer? Why didn't that happen to the previous clients that she had? That's where I have to, as a woman, I know we're all about women's rights and everything, but I believe in right from wrong, okay? The law's written in black and white, but everything else is interpreted in gray. That's basically the whole concept of this world. She's a killer at the end of the day. What she did was wrong, and she admitted to it, okay? I understand it's the 90s, but there have been numerous sex workers over the years that stopped doing that line of work and said, this is not for me anymore. And they got up and they left, okay? Sometimes it's a breaking point. Sometimes it's just a moment of clarity. But she chose to kill. And you can come on this platform and come at me. It's my opinion. And for some reason, opinions in this day and age are frowned upon if you don't go with a majority narrative. That's my opinion as a human being, okay? I'm not talking about my past career experiences or anything like that, or dealing with victims of crimes and homicides and everything. In the end all be all, in the basic essence of humanity, that was completely wrong. Okay, let me get back to work. All right, as you can see, the whole freestyling is not working out for me because this video will end up being 2 hours long. So I cut to the next day and just started to pack my order I was preparing. So the last documentary I want to talk about is the BTK Killer documentary called My Father, the BTK Killer. It is centered around Dennis Rader's daughter. Her name is Carrie Rawson, and basically her upbringing around BTK, her childhood, her suspected trauma, and how her life was completely turned upside down because of her father and what horrible things he did to those poor victims and the subsequent trauma that the survivors endured, as well as the family members. It was very well put together. I've been dying to read that book. It is actually on my list. I love to read books. Even though I watched the documentary, I have to read the book. I'm just maniacal like that. And it does break my heart on how Carrie ended up all alone. Firstly, the internet can be so fucking cruel. Yes, I cursed again. I'm not monetized. I don't care. But the internet can be really fucking cruel because this poor girl was a child, completely naive. She had an upbringing. Her father was present and everything. And the way people on social media are telling her, you should kill yourself, this, that, and the other, you don't matter, you're pathetic, and basically demeaning her because she's collateral damage due to the fact that her father is a psychopath. He's a serial killer at the end of the day. That isn't her fault. And the thing is that the internet has made people so comfortable to shame other people indirectly because everybody's on this, in this facade of the internet. Like, you have no face if you don't want to post your face. Like, I don't like to post my face, right? And they want to shame people unnecessarily. Where is the humanity left in this society? I mean, this poor girl's whole life was turned upside down. Her marriage, she ended up being a single mother. She has no contact with her mother. Her relationship with her father is pretty much non-existent. How can you not have some sort of compassion for that poor woman? At the end of the day, she is a human being, and she did not know her father was murdering people. He was killing innocent victims before she was even born. So sit down, lick your lips, take it down a notch, and try to think like, damn, that poor woman. I just wish we could find her humanity again. I highly recommend checking out that documentary. It really did bring some clarity and kind of put another perspective of Dennis Rader. And my heart bleeds for Carrie Rawson, and I really hope she gets some sort of solution or, basically finds her peace, because she is inherently tormented internally. All right, everybody. So I'm going to cut this early. I was supposed to air this about 2 months ago. It is now January 2026. Life caught up to me, and I had been pushing this off. So thank you so much for tuning. If you've made it this far, follow me on Instagram. I am also on TikTok. Yes, and it is a ball on TikTok. So if you have TikTok, please follow me at TikTok, Skeleton Crew Creations. Same handle as my YouTube channel and my Instagram. I go live there a lot, and it is a ball. We have fun, just random conversations that occur. We talk true crime, we talk self-defense, we talk humans, women's self-defense and initiative and strength training and everything. It is a great time. So if you have time to kill and you get tired of brain rotting scrolling, definitely check out my TikTok lives. Thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe, and help support my little channel, as well as check out my website, skeletoncrewcreations.com. Help support my growing small business. It is slowly growing, but hey, at least it's growing despite the downfall of Etsy. And check out some of my candles, as well as all of my true crime merch, and some other things that are going to be coming up soon. And don't forget to sign up for my email list. You'll get 20% off your first purchase. Thanks for watching. See you next time. I have another episode coming up sooner than 6 months. Take care. Bye.